intersection of good drinks, good music, and good times. This is Hops and Spirits Bar Conversations.
We're cruising right along. Like I said, we hit 200 episodes not too long ago, and we keep having more fun interviews. And like I said, I think I've said this once or twice before, you know, we tend to hit Nashville a lot, Texas, and somehow I end up with a Canadian artist on from time to time, and I don't know how I do that. But let's welcome in. She's a singer-songwriter. Her new album, Vices, which is fantastic, by the way, is set to release September 20th. Let's welcome in JJ Wilde.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate you hopping on, and you know, like I said, I got to listen to the album a little bit, and it's fantastic, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. But you know, this is Bar Conversations, and I'm always curious. I always got to start out. What's your favorite drink these days? Is it a coffee, a mocktail? What are you going for?
I always go for my morning matcha. Iced
Ooh.
matcha with soy milk is my go-to beverage in the morning for sure.
Now, are you like a coffee snob, or just that's like the one drink?
I don't mind. I used to drink like a pot of coffee every day, and I switched to matcha, and now I only drink like a coffee like once a month. And if I do, it'll be an iced latte with only one pump vanilla and soy milk.
So you've got the order down
Yeah.
pat then.
Oh yeah.
Now, as I mentioned, you know, you're from Canada, so, and I have a few friends that are from there, and I always need to know, is it a toque or a toboggan that you wear up there?
Toboggan is the sled, so it's definitely a toque. I don't know who
Okay.
made that toboggan thing a hat. It's not. It is a sled.
I was gonna say, do you ever, like, when you're down south, you know, or in the mountains in America, say something and then they just look at you like, wait, what?
Yes, 100%. What's the thing that always gets? I mean, obviously when I say out, everyone's like, what? Or when I say couch, and like my Canada comes out. But besides that, I don't get too much. Just the outs.
That I was gonna say, it's funny because I never know what to call that now, the toque and the toboggan, because like I said, I had a bunch of Canadian friends in college and still talk to them, and it's a toque to me from now on. But you know,
Yeah.
most of my friends don't understand what that means.
So they would say toboggan as a hat.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
Have they ever been tobogganing?
I think they call it sledding, and that's where it all goes sideways.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, a beanie is also an acceptable term, I suppose.
Now, a beanie, yeah, I'd say that's probably a 50-50 chance of toboggan or beanie.
Yeah.
And now, you know, I mentioned, you know, JJ Wilde is the name, but where does that come from? Because I'm guessing, is that your given name?
Well, no. My first name is Jill, and my sister's name is Jenny, and my brother's name is James. So we're all J's. And for me, the second J represents my sister because she has 3 kids, and so it's hard for her to like come to shows and if I'm touring and stuff. And my family's always been a huge support of my music, so it was just something to kind of pay homage to her.
I love that. Now, when she found out that you did that, what was her thoughts?
I don't think she had a reaction. I think she was just like, oh, cool, whatever.
She's like, thanks, that's great.
Yeah, she's my older sister.
Now, did you have a love of music from a young age? Like, were you into it right off the bat?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think early on I gravitated to more of what my family was listening to, and you know, they always had music in the house. You know, there's a common memory of waking up on a Saturday afternoon to music blasting. My parents are, you know, cooking or cleaning or doing whatever, and so there was always music in our house. My cousins are musical. There was always like fam jams growing up, and like Christmas, people would bring guitar, and like going up to the cottage, there would always be an acoustic guitar. So I think it was just always kind of around. And my older brother played guitar, and he's the type of person that could pick up any instrument and just kind of know how to play it. And that was frustrating for me because it took me a lot of practice to be able to play guitar. But yeah, I think from a young age, I always had a love of music, and then that turned into a want to create music.
Well, and is it true that your older brother's the one that taught you to play guitar? Is that
Yeah.
right?
That's true. Yep.
And does he tell everyone that as well?
Probably. Yeah, no, he was great. I would just show him a song and he would listen to like 30 seconds of it and be like, "Okay." And just show me how to play it. I'm like, "What? How is it so easy for you?"
I was gonna say if it makes you feel any better, I still can't play guitar very well, so you're ahead of me.
Makes me feel a little bit better.
Now you mentioned like you grew up around, music, and that your brother and some cousins. So were your mom and dad like into music and like instruments, or was it kind of just the guitar and some of those other family members that were musical, and that's kind of where you kind of picked it all up?
Yeah, they never played. I mean, my dad can strum a couple chords on guitar, but they weren't musicians in that way, but they had a love of music. That's where I think I got my love of music was just the appreciation, I still steal my dad's records from his record collection. It's like a loan system. I'll take some and bring them back and take some and bring them back. So that I think is where the love stemmed from, but no, they don't sing or really play anything.
So when did you break out that first note, and did they go, "Wait a minute"?
I think I started singing definitely before I could play any instrument. I always loved singing. I'd learn something and want to sing in front of them and be like, oh, when I was like little. Um, but yeah, I think the first song I ever learned to play was Coconut Skins by Damien Rice because it's only three chords. And I thought that was the coolest thing to be able to like play and sing. And I remember performing it for them. And, they're always very, very supportive and always thought that, my stuff was the best. But that's because I'm their daughter.
Well, I think they probably still enjoy listening to your music and getting to see what you're able to do nowadays. And you mentioned you kind of listened to some of their stuff growing up. Kind of what was on around you. You have older siblings. What music did you grow up listening to? Then was it by your choice or by everyone else's choice?
I mean, at first I think it was by, their choice because I was little and didn't really know what I liked in music. So there was a lot of classic rock, there was a lot of Led Zeppelin, there was a lot of Bruce Springsteen, Paul Simon, there was, you know, Pink Floyd, there was Elvis Costello, there was a lot of like great music. And then I kind of branched off into finding what I enjoyed. AC/DC, I remember loving that when I was like 11. Just like, yeah, exploring the rock scene, I guess. And then I went, very leaning heavy into folk. I discovered Bob Dylan and I was obsessed and thought that, the poetry that he writes and is able to turn that into a song and the storytelling and everything was just captivating for me. And so, yeah, there was like, Bob Dylan and Damien Rice and a lot of other folk artists. And I had a huge Adele phase. I was obsessed with
Who
Adele. And
didn't? Who
I
didn't?
know, right? When she came out with her first stuff, I was like, oh my God. And like Amy Winehouse, Janis Joplin, there was all those influences. Yeah, but then I think, as you evolve and when I was a teenager and stuff, I turned more into like pop and rap and stuff that in high school I was listening to. And so my musical taste has kind of gone all over the place and like classical music, even, some Nora Jones, got jazz. I think if it's good, I like it. And it doesn't matter what genre it is. It's just like if I feel something for it, if it makes me, feel, then I want to listen to it.
I was gonna say good music transcends any genre, and it's
Yeah.
amazing. No, I love that, and like I said, you grew up in Canada and in Ontario. What impact did kind of growing up north have on you, and either just your upbringing or the music you got to listen to?
I mean, besides hibernating every winter, um, no, I think Canada has a great music scene. Tragically hip, amazing. Yeah, I don't know if it had a specific effect besides, I guess in those winter months also kind of hibernating and digging into records and doing that kind of thing. I think the music industry in Canada is small, and so it's really exciting to discover new bands and get to know people and going to Toronto and seeing shows and stuff like that. But I think overall, it's very similar to America in a sense with the music scene, just a little smaller. But you're always hearing, what's happening in America and this and that. But there's a ton of great bands and great artists and everything coming from Canada. You just got to know, where to look.
I agree. That's why I said somehow you guys keep finding your way onto this show, and I love it.
I'll find you. No.
Well, it's funny that you talk about how all you came across all these different genres of music that you loved. You just loved good music. So is that kind of maybe what set you on the path to just go musical theater at first? Like, what kind of drove you that route?
No, so I wasn't really going when I was in college. I wasn't doing music theater to go into music theater. At that time, I knew that I wanted to be a performer, and I was in between. I wasn't sure if music was going to be the thing. I knew I loved playing music, and I played open mics and coffee houses and down what I could at that age. But I was also leaning into acting as a potential avenue, and I wasn't sure if that was for me or not. And so I saw this program that kind of taught, acting, dancing, singing, behind the scenes, costume design, like all the things that create a production. And through that, I learned a ton of really valuable lessons. Whether I was going to pursue music theater or not, there was a lot of performing that came out of that. And our year end project was to put on your own production, and mine, I was the musical director. You had to build your own cast, find the director, musical director, all of that. And so I was the musical director, and then Melly was her name. She was the director, and we did a stage adaptation of Across the Universe. So, doing that kind of stuff, holding rehearsals and, teaching people the songs in a different way and learning all the songs and then kind of reworking them to fit into a play. Like that was insane. There's so much that goes into that's beyond just music theater or acting and stuff like that. So it was really cool. And I learned a lot about just performing and what it takes to put on a production in general.
I was gonna say that easily translates over to when you're putting together your band and your stage
Yeah.
show and everything else that you do to this day.
Yeah, absolutely. And rehearsals and auditions and stuff. I'd never held an audition, like I'd never auditioned. That was insane.
Now you mentioned you did a lot of open mics, different things. Like a lot of artists trying to kind of figure out where to go. But was there like a particular open mic night that like changed things for you and maybe said this music thing might not be a bad idea?
There was a few, but one in particular that I can think of is actually when I was in college, they held an open mic at just like the campus bar, and I was so nervous. I wasn't going to perform. I was just going to watch with my friends, and I lived across the street from the school, and they convinced me to go home, get my guitar, and come back and play. And I did, and I was terrified. I was so scared. I used to have such bad stage fright. I'd be like literally shaking trying to play guitar. And the director for the venue, like the musical director, he came out or sent somebody out after. And I remember she came over and she just looked at me. She's like, "Hey, you should stay for the whole thing, and the person that runs this wants to speak to you, blah blah blah." And I was kind of like, "What?" Me? I was like, "Wait, what?" Because I hadn't really performed that much at all. And so he brought me into his office, and he just kind of said, I'm in my office back here working when we host these events and stuff, and he's like, "I'm always listening a little bit, but it takes a lot for somebody to make me stop what I'm doing and come out and say, 'What the heck? Like, who is that?'" And he did that. And so he just kind of said, "I don't know, what your goals are or what you're trying to do here, but I want to help you because I think that you have something and I think you're talented and I want to help you achieve what you want to achieve." And that was a real starter for me because he was very connected with all the schools in Ontario and colleges and campuses and stuff. So, some of my first shows were playing at university campuses and college campuses, and it would be like, he'd book me in this random, college in Toronto or Oakville or something like that. And I started playing those a lot, and, a couple bars in Toronto. And it really got me my first taste of playing real gigs of my original music and not just cover gigs and stuff like that. So that really, I think, sparked something for me where I thought, hey, I could get paid to do this.
I was gonna say that had to be an amazing feeling. And when did you kind of decide to give it like a full go? Because obviously it's one thing to kind of be playing the small gigs, things like that, but to kind of give it a full go and see what happens.
I mean, honestly, that is, if you're going to give it a full go, you have to start there. You have to start somewhere. And I mean, now more and more it's online, but it's very similar. It's a very similar thing where, before TikTok and Instagram and everything, it was you just want to get out in front of people. So playing, I would try to book myself every night in a different bar if I could. I was playing 4 or 5 times a week. If I was lucky, sometimes two or three or whatever, but I would just take whatever I could get, whether it was cover gigs, open mics, you know, hopefully originals, but that was few and far between. You kind of play the cover set and then slip in, 5 originals into 3 hours of music or whatever. Um, but I think that is the starting point for like giving it a go. You have to start, hit the ground running, and just get yourself out there in front of as many people as you can. Now, for me, I think I had been doing that for a few years. I had had a folk band. I had been doing solo stuff after that broke up, and so I was pursuing it in one way or another full time since I was 18, working bartending jobs and serving jobs that I could like work around. And then, I got signed in 2019 to an independent label in Canada, Black Box Music. And that was when I think it was maybe like a year or two after that that I was actually able to quit my bartending job and do it. But I had been, really working at it for a while before that. But it's interesting now because, yeah, I find like TikTok and, Reels, more so TikTok because that's more of a discovery tool than Instagram. I find like Instagram is more for your following. You don't get as big of a, broadcast to other people. But I find that those apps, kind of serve the purpose of the open mic, of the bar gigs. Now, it doesn't give you the same kind of experience when you're performing in front of people in a room, because performing to your phone is very different than performing to, 10 people or 20 people or 100 people or whatever it is. But I do think it serves the same purpose because it does get you out there and it just allows you to be seen by, way more people than you could doing an open mic, right? So it's like they're both very important, I think. The discovery tool of online right now is important, and, the actual practical playing and just and owning that and like honing that craft, that I feel like there's only one way to do that, and that is to just get in front of people.
Well, I was gonna say it's one way to kind of get rid of those jitters,
Yeah.
and it's also amazing too to see how different people in your life can have an impact. You talk about kind of the open mic person that kind of got you connected, and I think one of your producers, Frederick Thier, is that how you say?
Yeah, Frederick
Was a
Day.
big was pretty big on who you are musically too, right?
Yes, he was fantastic. I mean, is fantastic. I loved working with him. We had so much fun doing that first record. It was he had a great ear for picking out something from nothing. I would send him these voice notes that had, 2 lines of lyrics or something, and it was kind of like fumbling around and whatever, and I would send him stuff like that, and I would also send him full songs, and I'd send him half songs and whatever. But he would listen through every single thing I sent him and really listen. And sometimes it would just be like, that line is great. Let's build off that. You know what I mean? Like, he had a great ear for that. And yeah, I mean, he's a genius. I always called him like a mad scientist of music because he'd just like start going, and it was really incredible to watch.
Well, and I was going to say, you talked about how things kind of changed when you were kind of able to put out that record, and how much did things change for you when The Rush hit the top of the Canadian charts?
That was pretty crazy. I mean, it was an interesting time because my life at the time, like right when that hit, didn't change that much because it was during COVID. So it was this weird kind of parallel universe where all of this stuff was happening and yet I'm locked down in an apartment, but things are still happening and it was really exciting. But it was there was no immediate, let's go tour and blah, blah, blah. Like we had to, there was a year or two before we could actually tour that record. Now, things changed drastically because once we were able to tour, we were going to France and the States and doing all this crazy stuff. And I was like, just kind of soaking it all up and taking it in. But yeah, it was incredible.
Well, and then you won Rock Album of the Year for Ruthless at the 2021 Juno Awards, and how amazing was that?
It was, yeah, surreal. It was incredible. It was it was an honor, and to be the first woman to win that in 25 years was kind of surreal. Again, I was just like, wait, me? But I had worked hard on that record and I believed in it, and I was just really excited that people had liked it and listened to it and it made them feel something. That's all you want as an artist.
Well, and as you said, it was the first female artist in 25 years, and if folks want to know who that artist was, it was Alanis Morissette. So not a bad name to follow up, right?
No pressure, no pressure.
But I mean, like, to have kind of that start, those two albums, The Rush hitting, the top of the charts, Ruthless winning a lot of awards. What was it kind of like to have those kind of back to back? I'm guessing a little bit of validation, but also, like you said, no pressure either.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, it felt great, and it made me excited to keep writing and continue on and tour the record, and it was just like fuel to the fire.
Now, did you actually get to do a little bit more with Ruthless as you were as we were slowly coming out of COVID? Were you able to do a little bit more with that album as far as touring goes?
Yeah. We once the doors were open, I think I was home for 3 weeks out of a year. It was on the road for almost 2 years actually of just going and not stopping and hitting every market we could and going over to Europe and going to the States and Canada and just like fostering all of those things. And it was incredible. It felt like, you know, a different life. It was different. It was something different than I ever experienced before. But so much fun, and I can't wait to do it again.
Well, and when you're writing songs for those records, or even say your new album Vices, is that all coming from experiences, ideas? How does that work for you? Because I'm guessing you have lots of little notes on your phone these days.
Yes, yeah, I'm constantly writing. This record, because we had been touring so extensively, it's hard to write on the road for me. I find I'm so focused on the thing I'm doing presently, and then by the time you get to the hotel, you're tired and whatever. So it felt like when I was off the road, it was writing time, and it was a lot more intense of intentional writing. And there was still, of course, the like living room rights where I'm just by myself and feel inspired and pick up the guitar. But there was also, I did a couple trips to Nashville and LA to work with different writers and just meet people and see how the vibe was and, try out writing songs. And that was one of the most incredible processes of it, because you're meeting all these different people and sharing stories and hearing their stories and connecting with them. And there's nothing like that. It's almost like a therapy session and a writing session, because you got to chill for a little bit, talk, and kind of get some common ground before you start writing. And that's probably one of my favorite parts of it, is getting to know the person I'm writing with. And then obviously when you feel the magic of like, oh, I like this song, this is good, like you get that, and it's almost like a high. It's amazing.
Well, and did you really go on a road trip across America recently to kind of find yourself for this album Vices that's coming out?
Yeah, that was amazing. It started with me driving, just me and my dog, drove to Nashville and from Canada, and we stayed there for 2 weeks. And I was writing by myself and writing with people and, just kind of doing that thing and experiencing the city. And then I drove from Nashville to LA by myself, and that was crazy. That was like 7 days of just me and my dog on the open road, and it was very lonely, but it was also really invigorating, and there was a lot of time to think and to process and kind of just like sit with whatever I was going through. And then when I finally got to LA, I felt like I had so much to write about because I had just done that, week long stint. And there was times where I was almost out of gas, on a highway in the desert with not a light in sight. And I'm like, oh my God, am I going to be spending the night on like the side of this highway? Like stuff like that where, it got a little dicey. But then I had the 2 weeks in LA and I met some incredible people and was able to write. I found two amazing writers, Austin Goodlow and Jessica Farron, who wrote with me, I think 3 or 4 of the songs on the album. And finding that was really special for me because we had just met, but it felt like I had known them forever. And we, just dove right into the most personal things and, really like got deep with everything. And I feel like that's where great music comes from, is being able to be vulnerable with people or be able to be vulnerable with yourself and admit that and write about it. And then from there, I was going to drive home and things still hadn't like fully opened up in Canada. And, it was a bit of like a gray area and we didn't have a tour for a few months. So I just thought, okay, I'm going to take my time going home. And it ended up being like 3 weeks. And me and my photographer at the time, she flew out to LA to drive home with me. And then we just kind of went on this adventure and we would wake up and kind of look at each other and go, where do you want to go today? And then we would drive there. We went to New Orleans for Mardi Gras. We, drove through Arizona and spent so much time like up in the mountains, and we went to Texas, and we just went wherever the wind took us. And it was the most freeing, amazing experience to have nothing to do, nowhere to go, but just discover new places and, be so present in the moment.
Well, I was gonna say everything that you did led to the new album. And one of the other things you did recently, like you said, you went down to Nashville, you wrote, you went to LA, you wrote there, but you moved down to Nashville, right, full
Yes.
time now, right? Why did you decide to make that move?
I fell in love with the music here. I fell in love with the people, the culture around the music. Everybody is so accepting and friendly, and they really genuinely want other musicians to succeed. And I think that that is something that's really special and not always the case in the industry. I find like, of course, people want, you would want others to succeed, but I find sometimes it can be competitive and in different places, you know what I mean? But Nashville, I just found that there was a genuine, care for other artists, and it felt like a real community. And so I just thought I'd give it a go.
I'm sensing a pattern here with a lot of things you've done recently, just kind of seeing where things
Just
take you.
felt like
And
it. Yeah.
well, like I said, it's led to an amazing album. Vices, like I said, comes out September 20th. It's fantastic. And you said of this album, this is the album I said I would never make. What did you mean by that?
Well, I had always said that there was way more important things to write about than a relationship. And then I got my heart obliterated. And then I had to work through that. And in that, I found so much deep writing, and it was very cathartic to let that out and work through that in real time in the writing. And so for me, I would always said, oh, I'm not going to write about relationships, like nah, I'm not going to write a love song, nah. And then I did, and they're some of my favorite songs. So what do I know?
I was gonna say there might be a few of those on this album, and
Yeah.
the title for it, Vices. Why that one? How did that one kind of come to be?
That one for me made sense because I had been going through such a journey of self exploration and growth and trying to evolve and work through a lot of stuff. And it was coming to terms with the vices that I have and that I create for myself and that I was working through. And a lot of these songs are about times where I was in a low spot, or I'm going out too much, or I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I'm allowing those things to conquer me. And then it kind of switched to getting a handle on that and just working through that. And I think the title kind of is all encompassing of that, of the vices that we have in life, that we allow, that we don't allow, that we, sometimes it's all right. Also, it's not like vices don't have to be a bad thing. And that was something also that I learned. It's like there's a way of controlling that, of sometimes leaning into that, and that's okay too. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. Like I said, the album is fantastic. It's one of the few records that I've listened to recently that from front to back is something that I've enjoyed listening to every track, and I truly mean that, whether it's a song like Options or a song like Toxic. Two very interesting perspectives that you can take. And what can folks expect on this album?
It's this album is extremely personal. It's like ripping a page out of my diary. So it gets very deep, and yeah, I feel like it's just a real kind of expression of going through it and trying to get out the other side. But there's some upbeat feel good songs. There's some, sad, I'm in a dark place songs. There's everything in between. There's anger, there's joy, there's every emotion I was feeling for the past 2 years. I feel like is all kind of stuffed in there. So very emotional.
Well, like I said, it may be emotional, but it's a fantastic one. And you talk about being able to get to perform. You've been on small stages and toured across all different places. What's been the best part for you about being on stage and performing?
I think feeling the energy from the audience, and being able to be fully present in the moment is something that I really try not to take for granted. I think there's a lot of distractions in life these days, and I mean there always is, right? But I feel like now more than ever with phones and social media and everything, it's really easy to be somewhere else when you are doing something awesome. And so for me, being able to be present for that, whether it's a half an hour set, an hour 30 set, however long I'm on stage for, it's like nothing else matters. And I'm just there with my band, connecting with them on stage. I'm feeling the music kind of course through my veins, and I'm able to share that with an audience. And that to me is like the most special part. And, seeing people in the crowd singing along, and even just like enjoying it, it's really special.
I was gonna say, what was it like that first time someone was singing back one of your songs?
Crazy. It was so crazy. I literally couldn't believe it. Yeah, there's nothing quite like that. And I don't think that ever gets old either. It's something that still surprises me for some reason. Like it's like I don't expect people to know the lyrics still. And so whenever it happens, it's just like the most beautiful thing to me.
I see they connect to your songs, and it's a fun time. And this is one of my most favorite questions to ask. What is one of your favorite songs right now to perform on stage?
Ooh, I mean, Toxic, like, I'm not crazy, you're just an asshole. That song rips on stage. It is so fun. I feel like, if you're having a bad day or whatever, you can just let it all out in that song. So that one is probably my favorite right now to play.
I love it, and it's funny because when I got to listen to those songs, it was just called Toxic, and then when you released it out, you added a little bit more to the title. Was that strategic there?
That was always gonna be the name, but we had kind of like toyed with it a little bit. Like I remember when we wrote the song, and that one was with Austin Goodloe and Jessica Farron in Nashville, and that day was so funny because we were having such a good time writing it, and that one took a long time. Like there was, because there's a fine line between that song being good or being cheesy, and we really didn't want to go cross that line. And so it was a fun game of like, okay, like what can we say here, and finding the right lyrics and everything like that. And then when it came to the title, we had dubbed the demo "I'm Not Crazy, You're Just an Asshole," and then we're like, well, you can't really name a song that, so we'll call it Toxic. But then when it came out, I was like, no, I'm keeping the demo title. Screw it, I want that to be it.
I love it. I love it. Like I said, when that dropped that way, I was like, that is fantastic, and it is such a fantastic song. Like I said, so many of them are. That's one of my favorite. Options is another one of my favorites, and folks, if you do get the chance, listen to what JJ's put out so far on Vices, and then make sure you check it all out on September 20th. But obviously, that's coming out on September 20th. What else can folks expect from you this year and on into 2025?
More music. Lots of
Ooh.
music. Yep, I'm just finishing up the festivals for this season. So we got one. We're actually playing a festival the day that the record is released, which is so fun. I'm so excited for that show. It's going to be amazing. And it's close to my hometown, too. It's in Cambridge, Ontario. So very excited for that. And then we are going on a headlining tour in the fall. So I'll be playing the new record and, everything in between, old ones, new ones, unreleased ones, who knows. I'm just excited to be able to share this new record live and be able to bring a new set and something fresh. And it's always exciting playing your new stuff, right? And now that it'll be out, that's really exciting. And then, yeah, just more music. We're hopping over to Europe in the fall as well, to play a show over there. And I haven't been to France in a year and a half, almost 2 years. So I'm really excited to get back there. And then 2025 is going to be more music. I've already been writing. I've already been working on the next thing. I'm always working on the next thing. But this one I'm very excited about. So steady stream of music.
I love that. I love that. Like I said, Vices is fantastic, and I can't wait to see what else you're able to cook up. And folks, if you haven't, give her a listen. I think you will highly enjoy every bit of it. And JJ, thanks for sharing a little bit of your story, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great chatting with you.
Find more from Hops and Spirits at hopspirits.com.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.